Hello and welcome to the Ocean Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Silverwood. And our guest on the podcast today is Abigail Forsyth, who is the co-founder and managing director of KeepCup. Ever since KeepCup emerged on the scene in about 2008 with this beautifully designed cup that would be the solution to the burgeoning single-use coffee cup waste crisis, I was really impressed and wanted to know the story behind this woman and this family, because she started the business with her brother Jamie. It turns out entrepreneurialism runs in the family. We had this conversation over Instagram Live, and of course the conversation swung to the time of COVID and how we've seen a real hit to the reuse revolution during this time. But I was pleased to see that Abby is as fired up as ever to take her crusade against the single-use coffee cup to the end of its conclusion. She really does believe strongly that this product can be a wonderful solution. We learned that the cup is now available in 65 different markets. There's a base in Los Angeles and a base in London, and this business is all administered and driven by its headquarters in Melbourne, and the products are actually still being made in Australia. A real success story, a real testament to the power of people driving impact-driven businesses. I really enjoyed this conversation. There is a couple of little glitches as you go with Instagram Live, but persevere. You'll love this conversation. And if you do, rate the podcast, share it around, and tell your friends. Thanks for tuning into the Ocean Impact Podcast.
Take the ocean out of me.
Hi everyone, Tim Silverwood here from Ocean Impact Organisation, and very happy to be presenting another of our Going Live With series. And our guest today is Abigail Forsyth, who is the co-founder and managing director of KeepCup. And so, if you're not familiar with KeepCup, an incredible Australian-born innovation and product, and they have really gone on in a 11-year journey to really take on the world in the reuse revolution. So, I think we're going to have a fantastic deep dive conversation with Abigail today and really unpack how Abby and her team have built such an incredible business over this 11 years. Originally started in Melbourne, so I'm sure that Abby will be tuning in today from Melbourne, but have gone on to conquer the world really. We'll learn about just how many markets they've been able to enter. Can you believe it? There's less than 2 weeks left in our Pitch Fest 2020 campaign. We can't quite believe it, but applications do close on the 5th of October, so you've only got a little bit of time left to get your applications in. Remembering the first step is to submit a written application. Shouldn't take you too long. The answers should come naturally to you, and then you'll be approved within 24 hours. And then you need to submit your pitch video, which is a 3-minute pitch video. So make sure you give yourself plenty of time to be working on the pitch video itself, because we are looking at your written application, but the judges will be reviewing your pitch video closely. So have some fun, get creative with it. We've already seen some wonderful videos submitted, which we're really pleased about. You might have also caught the news on our socials that Nick and I went and had a little interview on our LinkedIn page talking about the kind of applications that we've been seeing come through so far. So go and check that out as well. It goes for about 7 minutes, and it will just give you a bit of a glimpse into just how exciting some of the ocean impact solutions that have applied so far are. I think you'll be really impressed and really intrigued. The statistics around just how many just going to go with KeepCup. Yeah, statistics around the different themes that people are working on, and of course, a little insight into just some of those big scalable examples. Here we are. Hello, Abigail.
Hello.
Great to have
Hi.
you. I'm really well. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Nice to see you're a little bit al fresco down there in Victoria, outside,
Yes.
fresh air.
Yes. Well, it's a hot house inside.
Yeah, right. Gee, how's things been going? Obviously, for those people tuning in from around the world, Melbourne and Victoria have obviously had a bit of a tough trot with COVID restrictions. How you coping?
Coping.
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 That's the word.
Yeah. It's pretty tough, but yeah.
Yeah, we're just persevering through, and we're all feeling for you, and I'm sure people all around the world, are coping in their own unique ways. But yeah, definitely been feeling for you. Look, thanks for your time. You
Pleasure.
really are such a shining example of an entrepreneur and a founder who has gone to do such great work to protect planet Ocean. So we really appreciate you being here today.
Pleasure.
Why don't we go right back to the beginning then? Because people are looking at KeepCup, they're recognizing this global brand, and they're wondering, I wonder who the people behind that brand are and why they are so driven to make this impact. You want to tell us a little bit about you and your origin story and love for the planet, sustainability and all that jazz?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a family, and we, I guess it was a love of, I don't know, the beauty of things, really, as much as of nature and the planet. So just looking after things and treating things well, treating the planet well. So that sort of philosophy. And then I did a law degree. I became a lawyer, and while I was a lawyer, my brother would call me up with a new business idea and go, we should do this, we should do that. And then one day he said, I've seen these stores in London, Pret a Manger, and they do everything convenience packaging. And I thought, well, I'm a good cook and I like people. Can't be that hard. I'll step in and do that. And so we did that. We started these stores called Bluebag in the city in Melbourne. We eventually got to 6 stores. But all the while, we started them right at the start of the coffee trend that sort of, has swept the world in the last 20 years. But, when people were just starting to come in and have a takeaway coffee. So until the late 90s, people didn't really do that. And, over time just became more and more concerned about the volume of packaging waste we went through as a business. And so I went down to the Myer and thought I'll just buy a reusable cup that we can sell in our stores, and couldn't find one that fitted under the group heads, couldn't find one you could make the coffee in to get the size right, and thought, gosh, this is such an opportunity to do something here. So that's where we began.
Amazing. So does this entrepreneurial spirit run through the whole family? You mentioned Jamie there, your brother, and I saw on some of your 10-year celebration videos your dad. I'm just really keen to learn about your family and this entrepreneurial attitude.
Yeah, I think it definitely is bred in the bone. So, my dad had his own business, and his business was where when computers were like the sizes of rooms, and he was selling the ribbons, and worked out that he could make ribbons from the stuff they were throwing in the bin for half the price. So he used to make the ribbons for the computers and sell them. So there's a bit of sort of, I guess that's sort of a sustainability thing threaded right back as well. My grandfather had his own business, and I've got 2 brothers. So Jamie and I did KeepCup together. We did Bluebag together, then we did KeepCup together for 6 years, and then I bought the business off him. He's now started Returner, so looking at more of a shared system for reuse with other products. And my other younger brother, he's Minor Figures Oat Milk. So
Fantastic. And so you mentioned there that sustainability and your attitudes of your father and grandfather. Do they talk about it now? Was it a sort of condition of you guys establishing businesses that you ticked a bit of a sustainability box?
No, I think it's just I think there's a bit of it's efficient to be
sensible,
sustainable.
simple, efficient.
Yeah. So it's sort of, it's interesting. We've had people come into the business, and I didn't realise that way of thinking was different. It's just the way, I think it's just the way the business has been created. But yeah, I mean, I remember someone saying, we should have a bigger box so it takes up more shelf space. And it's like, no, because, you've got your footprint and, all the things that you wouldn't do that. So, yeah.
Good on you. Okay, so let's go back to then, what are we talking? So 2007, 2008. So cafes have gone off, but you've realized there's an opportunity there for a product solution to tackle the burgeoning coffee cup waste problem. How did you go about it? You mentioned there that little trip to Maya and looking for a solution, but then you realized it didn't exist, so you thought, let's create it ourselves. Run us through your thinking and the process there.
So I was, quick, let's do it ourselves. And then my brother, who's probably a bit more sensible, goes, why don't we trial it? So we, in winter of 2007, we got in some Decor soup mug, like these plastic red mugs that cost us $5 each. And we sold them, I think, pretty much for $5. And we said, if you return and get your soup, we'll give you 50 cents off the soup. But the disposable packaging for the soup cost us 65 cents. So we were saving money.
Still winning.
We were winning, and 15% of our customers returned and reused. So from there, we realised that there was an appetite for this. There was a market for people, because part of the reason we weren't going to do it initially is because it seemed so obvious. Like, we were like, what are we missing? Like, why are people using disposable cups? They're not recyclable. Why hasn't someone else done this? So there was a bit of I think that was our main concern all the way through, that there was something we were missing as to why people wouldn't be reusing.
And were you? I mean, you just asked yourself those questions, but then when you actually started trialing it, did you realise that those barriers didn't exist?
Yeah, those barriers didn't. I mean, it's quite funny, like now in the time of COVID, the same barriers are coming up again that we had to deal with 10 years ago. Like people saying, oh, it's easier to, the washing takes too much energy, so you're better to use single use. They're not hygienic. Like all those arguments were the arguments we had to overcome 10 years ago.
No, so okay, so those barriers you mentioned, and they're coming up again, and we'll definitely be talking about the COVID barriers to reuse throughout this podcast. So next step, so you've gone out there, and how did you create the pilot product? What was your process in actually designing it, and then obviously getting your first batch and getting them out there?
So we did the pilot. So all the time we're thinking, we're deep in these cafes. They're taking up. It takes a lot of energy and time to run any business, but I think a food business often more so than anything. So we're like, is this, what are we doing? And then I'd had a daughter, and she was a little baby, and I'd have her coffee in a disposable cup. I'd give her milk in a sippy cup. And I thought, would it be okay for me to give her milk in a disposable cup, or feed her with disposable plates and cups? And I thought, well, that's not the world I want her to grow up in. So I don't want to set up that message. So why is that okay for me? And I'd been reading Jared Diamond's Collapse, about how societies collapse, and realize that there's a lot of cultural things that we hang on to as things that we have the right to, like convenience, that may actually be such, precipitators of our demise. And it was that sort of idea of behavior change and getting people on a journey to reduce waste. That's what excited me. So I think that was the turning point for me personally to start the business and go on that journey. So we knew that if we did it, we'd have to get people who knew what they were doing. So we engaged industrial designers I had a drawing of what I thought it should look like. Anyway, gave that to the industrial designers. They designed something. We thought it looked amazing. And we took it to local manufacturers around Victoria, because we wanted it to be made a local solution. Like, part of the sustainability was that it should be made locally. And I took it to one guy, and he's like, are you crazy? This is a plastic cup. Like, this, how is this a solution? Like, there's millions of plastic cups. I've got heaps of better ideas over here in the tools. Why don't you, if you can't sell this idea, like, you should forget about it. So go and do something else. And at the time I was sort of a bit cut, thinking, how dare you not see the genius of this? But it turned out to be brilliant advice. So through Bluebag, we had a lot of catering customers. So I called, hundreds of companies pitching this idea. And firstly went to the sustainability manager, and then we quickly realized they never had any money, so they would never be able to buy it. And so then we got to marketing, and we started pitching to companies that had maybe, like, our first sale was to NAB, who were moving to the Docklands into a 6-star green building. And we said to them, well, you've got solar panels on the roof and you're reticulating all your grey water, but if you're giving people disposable cups, there's a real disconnect with the message you're trying to send to your team. So, yeah, they bought 5,000 off the prototype, and yeah, off we went. I took them down. I went to take the prototype down. Like, you couldn't take the lid off. It was hand painted. To put it in a box or something. So I put it in a shoebox, rode my bike down there, and did the pitch. And they said, we'll buy 5,000. I nearly died. Like, I just didn't know the potential at all at that point. And I got down and I called Dad, and he goes, you've got a tiger by the tail.
Love it. That's such a great lesson there. So here you are thinking you're just going to go off and get your first batch made and then go and try and sell.
Yeah.
And the advice is no, get your prototype, make the sale, and then go into production. So you've got a hand painted prototype and you managed to sell 5,000
in a shoebox.
in a shoebox.
And I think that's the other lesson I learned probably years later, that, you know, of course they weren't just buying the product, they were investing in me. Like, they believed that I would be able to come through with the goods because I was passionate about the problem and the solution. So, you know, when you're pitching a product, it's never just the product. It's all the people behind it and the brand and all the things you want to do with it that people buy into.
So at that time, we're talking 12 plus years ago, and with that prototype, is the pitch, you said it's a 6-star green building, but was the pitch, look, there's a big crisis coming in coffee cups, or were they more attracted by the design, the ability to co-brand? Like, was that resonating in those early days? This is a solution to a burgeoning problem?
Yes, it was in those early days. Like, people understood the problem, and the first time we sold them, people would come and say, I've been thinking about this, I've been worried about this. Because I guess people now, 12 years later, there's a lot of people who are drinking coffee now who've never known any other way. Whereas 12 years ago, there were people who'd seen sort of the rise of the rise of disposable packaging. It happened so fast, and suddenly it's normal. Whereas back then, you had people who knew another world and were like, this is not right.
I can imagine, and it's a feature on your website, the whole issue of copycats, and I'm sure there's been other product solutions that have come out in the last 10 years that have really suffered from copycats. Sorry if you missed that, just talking about the copycat problem and people coming up with solutions that could very quickly be copied and really try and take your market. Maybe tell us a little bit about, did you know straight away that there was distinctive design elements and a real importance on making it distinct and hard to copy?
That's where the lawyer came in.
Nice
So
one.
we wanted, I mean, I guess we wanted it to be distinctive. Jamie and I used to always sort of have this argument, is it going to be sexy or is it going to be sustainable? And ultimately it had to be both. Like, it had to be something that people go, oh, what is that? I really like the look of that and I really like to use it. And then sustainability sort of underpins that desire to use it in the first place. Like, you know, it makes you continue. So I think that design element was always part of it. And it's part of what I really enjoy about the business, the design side of it and the colour and telling the story. And I think, you know, we always knew that the brand was the most, and so being a lawyer, I also know that, you know, those legal protections you have are pretty difficult to enforce. So our strongest thing would be our brand and be the fact that we're out there. So when we first got inquiries internationally for the business, we just followed them, and it probably cost us more money to ship the cup to someone who wanted one in America, but we did it to sort of build the movement and build the, you know, if people were passionate about it and they found us, we wanted to help them, and we knew they'd spread our message.
I was thinking about this earlier, and there must only be a handful of companies, of brands out there who can claim that title of being the generalized term for the
category
item.
Name.
Is that what it's called? The category? I was thinking about the esky for the chili bin, the portable cool box.
But Kleenex.
Yeah, wow. So when did you know that was a title that you were potentially heading towards?
We didn't really, and I reckon I've got to credit Craig Rucastle for that, for War on Waste. Because he talked about the KeepCup all through that program, and from then it just sort of stuck as the category name.
The category name. Gosh, if you could put a a value on that. That's a pretty amazing achievement.
Yeah. Well, I think it helps to have a name that is literally what you do. Like keep
Was it
cup.
always going to be? Was it always going to be KeepCup? Like when you coined the idea, did you know it was KeepCup, or did that something that evolved?
No, no. So we work with so it was Andy Sargent at South Southwest who did the logo and the design, and they were coming up with all these different names, and they had some crazy names. Like one of them that brings to mind is Gino Cup, because it was about the Italian heritage of coffee. But they had all these names, and then we'd had sort of 3 in our shortlist, and we weren't too sure about them. And then Andy came in, he goes, "I've got it." And we go, "What's the name?" He goes, "KeepCup," and go, "Yep, that's it." Like it just click. It was just, yeah, such a great name.
Across the board. Yeah, what a cracker. What sort of support? I mean, Ocean Impact Organisation, which I represent now, obviously is all about creating an ecosystem of support for innovators and entrepreneurs and disruptors like you were back in 2007, 2008. What sort of support was around for you then? Did you go looking for it? Do you look in hindsight and wish there was more of it? Tell us a little bit about those struggles, successes, challenges, all that fun stuff.
So we got a couple of grants. We got a small business grant from the City of Melbourne, and we got a grant from Creative Victoria at the time for the website. So we got a couple of grants out of the gate. And then I think, I don't know, like it's probably only in the last couple of years that we've looked around to the other people in our space who are doing similar things. Like we were so heads down, bum up, really just building the product. And for us, I think it was identifying early on, like the first market we did in Sydney, like a farmer's market thing, and a girl came up and said, "Look, I'd really love to carry one of these, but I drink Campos coffee and they're way too cool." And I was so furious. And then the next week, Will Young from Campos Coffee called up and said, "I'd like to buy 10,000 of these. I've been looking for a product like this for years." So not only overnight did Campos Coffee sort of put us on the map in what was cool in coffee, it gave us that really clear knowledge that it was the roasters, the baristas, the cafes that were going to make or break us. Like if you walked into a cafe and handed over KeepCup and the barista went, "Oh, what's that? I'm not feeling it," we were going to be in trouble. So we really worked on those relationships as the sort of gateways to getting permission to reuse. And, I remember going into a cafe and handing it over, and the person goes, "Oh, cool KeepCup." And I'm like, "Yes, it is."
Little do you know who I am. That's great. Hey, I was looking at your timeline of your journey, and gosh, you went to market in the UK and then the US relatively quickly after your launch. Tell us a little bit about those leaps into huge markets overseas.
Yeah, so I like to say we're like Kramer from Seinfeld. We were almost undone by our unbridled enthusiasm. But my younger brother, who now does minor figures, he was in the UK traveling with his then girlfriend, now life partner at the time. And we said, "Oh, this is easy. Just, start it up." It's happened so quickly in Australia, not knowing that the market was completely different. The way they consume coffee, the ratio of independent cafes to chains. But yeah, they started that up and, I guess did it at really the ground zero of the London independent coffee scene. So we've been there a long time, and yeah, it served us well. It was tough going for a while there. And then in the US, that's always been a challenge for us, the US market.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about markets then. So I think I looked, and there's like 65 countries now. Is that still the same statistic? And do you want to go into any, details there on how you're tracking the, quantities that you've been able to sell, or just some stats on impact for us? Because I think it's a pretty impressive suite of achievements.
Yeah, so I guess we sort of like to think of it in terms of impact. I think we're in our main markets are the UK, US, Canada. It's growing in China, which is really interesting. Taiwan, we've been trading with them for years and years and years. So it's really us looking at markets where there is a strong takeaway coffee culture. There's no point having a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. And now we're just about to launch a B2B website where not only individuals can order online, but cafes will be able to order online in smaller quantities, and we'll be able to provide them greater access to some of the tools we have and the case studies and some tips beyond the KeepCup to become more sustainable and reduce impact in their cafes.
Nice one. And what about product design? I noticed that there's been quite a few evolutions in materials and design over recent years. You want to tell us a little bit about that little journey?
Yeah, so look, we started with plastic because at the time we thought plastic was recyclable, and we went to great lengths to ensure that each component was made of a single type of plastic to facilitate recycling. We thought they were lightweight, they were easy to use, there was a low price point. I guess we always thought glass was probably the more premium way to drink coffee, so that we always had our sights on glass. And then more recently, I was in Canada, and our Canadian distributor said to me, Abby, at -4, it's pretty difficult to get a hot coffee in the glass or the plastic. So we sort of started with the stainless steel. So that's been really fun and an interesting journey. I think a lot and we've got some other products coming out next year that are also stainless steel.
Nice one. Why don't we jump to the elephant in the room? Everyone's been sitting in their chairs waiting for us to talk about COVID and the crazy, crazy disruption to everyone's reusable habits and behaviours. Give us a bit of a lay of the land. What have you picked up? What are you sensing for now and into the future?
Yeah, it's a tough, I guess, KeepCup was made for a world that was big on convenience and big on speed. So people wanted their coffee so fast, they had to take it away in a cup. So I guess in a slowed down world, in a world where, I think suburban cafes where people are working from home are starting to do really well, and the city cafes are having a tough time because there's no one there. It starts to change how we consume coffee, and I think it gives an opportunity for cafes to reboot and perhaps get rid of just single use altogether. Although there have been issues around using reusables as a consequence, but I think most of that's been put to rest now, and a lot of that was following, like Starbucks announced they were banning acceptance of reusables, and the world pretty much followed. And what we've seen is
that sort of been, in hindsight, that's been pinpointed as the sort of start of it, because it certainly cascaded down into most people's communities, I'm expecting, who are tuning in.
Yeah, I think it was. And also, the plastics lobby has really taken advantage of this situation. So they've lobbied. So a lot of, there was going to be a lot of single-use bags banned, and those legislative reforms have been either delayed or repealed because they're really pushing that there's a link between single-use and hygiene, which of course there is not.
So that was obviously something that you had to overcome in the early days, because people misinformed or whatever would come out with a line around, oh no, we can't do that, we can't do this because of that. How did you overcome that then, and have you had to adopt a similar approach in these COVID times?
Yeah, I think then we did it sort of just knocking on, I think we got, back in the day, we got a letter from John Bromby telling us how amazing we were to be promoting reuse and reducing waste and landfill. And we also got a legal advice saying that there was no impediment to refill. So I guess we've done similar things by getting some experts to talk about how there is no danger, like the risk of transmission is very, very slim. But I think the change now is we've got a whole group of people who are committed to reuse and on this journey to reduce their impact, both as individuals and our cafe customers. And then there's a whole lot of other groups like Conscious Cup, City to Sea, Plastic Free Foundation, who we can start to, speak as a group and really advocate for some broader change beyond the disposable cup.
How does that make you sort of feel, I suppose, as the managing director of a brand, that you have to sort of devote a chunk of your time and energy and your team to sort of a debate that maybe shouldn't even be your place to be playing, but you take it upon yourself. And it sounds to me like you've even got a need to double down on that in order to allow your business to flourish in this post-COVID world.
I was always up for the debate. I've always been, keen to advocate, the end of problematic and unnecessary single-use packaging. I guess it's the doubling down. It's the sense it's like, haven't we done this? Like, I've been at this for 11 years. Are we there yet? It's that sort of, that's the one that sort of makes you want to face the wall.
I know. And as you mentioned before, you are feeling, you could potentially feel like, oh gosh, are we doing this again? And then in the other corner, you've got the representatives of the biggest companies in the world who are producing this stuff, and their version of doubling down looks like tripling, quadrupling down, because they see the opportunity around this little slither in the door, and they just want to rip it ajar and flood the market with more and more plastic. Yeah,
exactly. So, I think it's we've got to come together and really fight this. And I think, this, don't you, like, I just feel like COVID has presented, COVID's been horrific for so many people, but it also presents, it's like our last chance. It's like this last window to launch forward and pivot what we're doing to regeneration, to renewables, to, new ways of living. And, here in Australia, we're talking about a gas-led recovery. It's like, oh my God. Yeah. How can that be? How can it be?
Same thing as we were speaking about before. It's the last gasp of these giant companies that see an opportunity and are tripling down because this potentially is their last crack to make hay while the sun was shining on them. And it's unfortunately up to all of us to see that, call that bluff, and somehow galvanize people in this day of a very broken information ecosystem and get everyone on side to a future that we should all be believing and agreeing in.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry to interrupt your beautiful podcast experience, but I just wanted to jump in and remind you that in order to help us grow the crowd of ocean impact supporters out there, we really do need to see this podcast reach more ear canals. So, would you kindly consider subscribing? Would you kindly consider writing a review? And if you love an episode, please share it around. We're blown away by the support, but with more listeners, we can make an even greater impact. You were a founding Australian member of B Corp. So this idea of purpose being ingrained and entrenched in the business is something that was obviously there right from the beginning. 1% for the Planet member. Do you want to talk a little bit about sort of this attitude of achieving these certifications and all those community and environmental initiatives that spin off your purpose line?
Well, it's just, what are we here for? Like, what are we here for? It sort of comes to that, and those certifications of 1% for the Planet and B Corp are just sort of some independent evidence that we are who we say we are, really. Like, we'd be doing it anyway, but this is a way for people to trust us that we're doing what we say we're doing. And the same with like doing life cycle analysis and that sort of thing. It's trying to lift the bar and have people trust you, what you're doing. And nice. Why it's sort of like, what are we here for? Like, aren't we all here to make the world a better place? Yeah. Exactly right.
And look, I mean, that's the mission of Ocean Impact Organisation. Like, we are trying to create an abundant and sustainable ocean through inspiration, leadership, innovation, but importantly, good business, because isn't that what business should be? Yeah. And how can you stand up in a business that's doing bad and feel like you're doing good business? You can't. Yeah. And you don't get a seat at the table unless, people aren't going to pay any attention to you. It's unless you're doing okay. So you spoke before about, the gas-led recovery and this sort of really precipice moment that we have to redefine and reshape the future that we want to see. What do you think about the status of innovation and supporting, startups and trying to bring up this new generation of leaders who want to do things differently? Do you have any thoughts or perspective on where Australia's at with that or where it needs to be?
Yeah. we're a big supporter of the circular economy, and we've been we're a sponsor of Planet Ark Circular Economy, but we've got some problems there because we've got to have an economy and there's got to be a circle. Like, we have to start manufacturing some things in Australia and really, so we can create this loop and push jobs to people. There's so much work to be done.
And certainly around just, leadership as well, right? I mean, here we are. It is the opportunity for a knight in shining armor, if you will, or female knight. I don't know what the terminology is for that, but someone to emerge and to take charge of this unique opportunity we have to remodel the future around a vision of we had Damon Gammo on the podcast last week, and, his idea of shining a light on solutions that they're available. We can do this now. Like, what are the barriers that you say we've got? They don't exist. Let's go.
They don't exist. Yeah.
Why don't we just wrap things up a little bit? You can obviously ask me any questions at all about what I'm doing, but we'd obviously love to get a little glimpse at, what the future looks like for you, Abby, and for KeepCup. Any sort of, you mentioned before some slight evolutions in business models and things. Tell us a little bit about the future.
I guess I don't know. I'm in a bit of a moment of what's next and what is the best way for KeepCup to use what influence we have to push the agenda that we'd like to see. So, we're sort of we're doing a bit of a stakeholder map and mapping out a critical path toward what we'd like to see in Australia and beyond. And then, it's hard to know where to put your energy and resources to have greatest impact. For a decade ago, carrying a KeepCup was an act of revolution. Like, you'd see someone walking along with a KeepCup and they give you a bit of a nod. Whereas now it's, that's the ticket to the game. It's just another product. So how do we step in front of that and start to really drive some more meaningful change? Like, it's got to happen faster and faster. Yeah.
Do you interact in any communities or networks where this business leader / activist, thinking and framing comes into play? I could imagine some great dinner parties or networking events where you start really plotting what to do next.
There's no dinner parties here.
No, that's true. You're just desperate to have one, aren't you? Socializing.
Just the teenagers. Talking to the teenagers, they set me straight on a few things.
Yeah, nice one. Yeah, we can't wait to do more and more work with young people, and those people who just get the future. There's no second guessing in their mind. They know what it used to look like, and we just need to shine a light and give them the tools and support to get there.
Yeah, we need to crumble a few old edifices for them first, though. It's not. Yeah, we need to get a few things right.
Yeah, true that. Works from both ends. Well, we can start to wrap things up now, but any sort of closing words, any questions you want to leave us with? Any sort of calls to action?
No, just I don't know, just people. I think probably the biggest lesson about KeepCup has been that of all the things it's shown that people want to make a difference. They want to change, and KeepCup's been such an easy access point to do that. But I think what we should all take from that is that people want to be part of a positive solution. They want to be part of regeneration. It's just giving people an access point to do that. Like, how do you do it? What do you do next? Because I think often we get a bit stuck there, and also the aggregated effect of many individual actions is really, really powerful. So, yeah, that's what I'd like to say.
We really appreciate your time and all the great work you've done in leading a wonderful solution-oriented business born in Australia and taking over so many markets. Keep up the wonderful work. Made in Australia too. Wow, that is so impressive. I actually had that as one of my questions, but I never made it down to my notes because I knew that was always touted as such a strong point. But I'm really impressed that you're still doing that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Good on
well,
you
and
guys.
also, I mean, I guess the point around that is the guy who runs that business is, I think he's 82 now. And like, there's just not enough trades in Australia. There's not enough tool makers. There's not enough people who can do what needs to be done. So, yeah.
A real consequence of globalization, and here we are now
Absolutely.
trying to pick up the pieces and put it back together again, and it's not going to be easy.
For sure.
Oh, well, we'll keep doing our bit and bringing along a great tribe with us.
Yeah, thanks, Tim.
Good on you, Abby.
Great conversation. Bye.
See you later. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Hey now, can you feel it? She's calling out your name. She's raging blue, she's dressed in white. She's everything. They say it's jobs, they crave the power, dollar signs and drilling towers. But our kids, black and seas, can't take the ocean out of me. Take me to the water, I can't live without it. Take me to the water, oh, 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 oh. Take me to the water, I won't live without it, oh. Can't take the ocean out of me. Hey now, do you know her? She'll bring you to your knees. Bring it far to her heart and leave it hard. And every fiber of my being needs to know she's safe. She said, gotta know, she said, gotta know, gotta know, gotta know. Say it's jobs, say it's power. I just know it's only so for our family, for our future. Can't take the ocean out of me. Take me to the water, I can't live without it. Take me to the water, oh, 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 oh. Take me to the water, I won't live without it, oh. Can't take the ocean out of me. Take me to the water, I can't live without it. Take me to the water, oh, 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 oh. Take me to the water, I won't live without it, oh. Can't take the ocean out of me. Take me to the water, I can't live without it. Take me to the water, oh, 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 oh. Take me to the water, I won't live without it, oh. Can't take the ocean out of me.